Welcome to the Marketing Mortgages Social for Brokers podcast. Now, as mortgage advisors, you all know you can't just rely on one source of leads. You all want a mix of referrals, leads from social media, and even website leads. Then the other area that you want to focus on is introducers. But then even when it comes to introducers, you don't just want to rely on one introducer. And that's why today I've got Jonathan Southgate on from Sterling Southgate, who works with 15 introducers at the minute. And these are all in different kind of areas and industries. And the reason that he does that is to make sure he gets a diverse range of leads to feed not only himself, but the brokers that he has at the company as well. So today, Jonathan's kindly going to talk us through his blueprint of getting new introducers, setting the standard with their own marketing package, and then how he maintains the relationship with them, which is very important, not only to keep the relationship, but also to increase the quality of the leads coming into him. So, Jonathan, welcome to the podcast, mate.
Hi, Chris. Good to be back. I think it's number 3 now, isn't it? Number 3 or 4.
Yeah, number 3. I think the first one we recorded was back in 2020, I believe. Wow. Yeah, when I remember you being in the corner of a bedroom before you moved offices. Yeah. And talk us through the growth of the team over the last, because it's been quite a quick growth lately, hasn't it?
Yeah, so in the last 18 months, I mean, I kind of went through that journey I think most advisors get through, and sort of feeling the pain points and then some want to launch and go bigger, some want to stay just on their own. But I kind of went through that whole process and started wanting a bit more time back for myself, or a bit more time to work on the business and other business interests. So it made sense to kind of gear up the team a bit. So now we've got comprehensive back office support team. So we've got, pre-sales administration, post-sale administration, sort of wraparound service around that as well. And then advisors, crikey, from South Wales down to sort of Wellington and Somerset and across the region. So yes, last 18 months, coming up 2 years, have been busy. But different.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And testament to you, because I remember chatting back to you in 2020, and you had all these grandiose plans, didn't you, of growing we both had an estate agency background, so we chatted about that. And it was just you. And I remember you saying, I'm going to look at hiring an admin next. And then you look now, 5 years on, you've got a team of support staff. You've got loads. I mean, how many brokers have you got at the moment, John?
Got 3 in the team at the moment. But we're looking to get, we need another 2 this year, and then next year we're aiming to try and push towards 7, maybe 10, depending on the growth areas. But this will come into like how we launch advisors and the introducers we've got. So it's a really good topic.
Fantastic. And like every mortgage broker that is listening to this, when they hire a mortgage broker, all of a sudden it's not just leads that you need to generate for yourself. It's now thinking about the leads that you need to generate for your team. And obviously you have more mouths to feed now. So we'll get into it. Where do the majority of your leads come from at the minute, Jonathan?
So I've been quite conscious to look at sort of filling that pot from as many different places as possible. So we do a little bit of networking with some of the teams. So we've got sort of a trickle in from there. Introducers, so our estate agency introducers, insurance introducers, and accountancy introducers form the majority of our lead structure. Get a little bit from social, and then sort of friends and family referrals are our second biggest.
Okay, so you talk about all the different introducers. Can you list out of the 15? Don't have to give us names. Can you give us a bit of a breakdown of what industries those introducers are in? And are there any that would kind of stick out that everyone's like, oh, that's an interesting one?
Yeah, cool. Absolutely. So we kind of, the theme is probably weighted about 60-40, with 60% being sort of traditional estate agency introducers. Say traditional introducers, I would say more forward-thinking introducers. So the people who are maybe EXP type agents, independent, self-employed, because obviously they're hungry for a bit of extra cash, and that's kind of where we feel that. We do have branches, multi-branch networks, so like 4 or 5 offices in some areas. A really interesting one has been how we've identified different insurance niches and then support them. So we've got in the West Country particularly, we've got two particular niches that are really interesting. So we've got a company that is an insurance firm for vets, doctors, basically medical professionals. Okay. So we've kind of gone in, learned, understood all their pain points, and then found like the ideal outcomes for those clients. So whenever we get a call now, we can speak with authority about that. So it's all about engaging and learning about those industries. One that's come across the desk recently, which is really exciting, is an extreme sports insurance company. So they basically, like all the skate parks, all the Zip World type setups, wave parks, all that kind of stuff. They basically do all their PI cover insurance for those businesses. Those businesses are business owners, right? Limited company directors, typically. They don't want to be fussed with the day-to-day, like what's up in my mortgage. They've got big businesses to fill, right? So we found, again, their niches. So it's learning how to speak to those people. So we spend a lot of time with those introducers to find out what makes these people tick. What words are going to turn them off? What words are going to make them buzz? Like how do we really understand and get under the skin of these people so that when they call us, it's an extension of you? So yeah, that's
wow, that's really interesting actually. So you got like a trampoline park owner that is looking for a mortgage. Wow, I wouldn't have thought of that way of doing it. And we'll get into how you get in touch with these people. But when we say introducers, a lot of the listeners would think estate agents and accountants, that's an introducer. Yeah. But like what Jonathan said there, think outside the box in this instance. Don't always think about property companies. Think about business owners. So that's really interesting. So talk to us about, say I'm a mortgage broker, right? And I am listening to this and I want to start getting some introducers to start sending leads over to me. How did you find your first introducer and how should I do it as a brand new mortgage advisor?
Interesting. So back in 2020, when we first started on this spin, I mean, I had a bit of experience with obviously estate agency and knowing what makes those people tick. So the first thing I would say is if you're from outside of financial services, lean into your previous career. So let's just say you're an ex-teacher, for instance, like think about the pain points you had as a teacher, not necessarily the marketing and stuff, but all the other bits and pieces, and then see, okay, can we unlock something potentially here that's going to appeal to teachers? And this difference between niching down and getting introducers. Niching down is, I know what I've been, and therefore I can facilitate that client, helping that with the pain point. We're now looking at how can we then turn those teachers into referral partners? Like, can we get into the unions? Can we get into all the areas that we need to be to sort of fulfill that? So when I started out, I had literally the iPhone and laptop, and you say I was squelched into a corner of a bloody spare room, and it was that was it basically. So I just looked at every estate agent within sort of 20 miles of where I was. I looked at the ones that were doing stuff slightly differently that I could say this stands that person apart. So whether that is that they are self-employed or whether that's that they've got really good marketing, whatever it was. Set up a target list. So like 20 of the agents I'd want to work with, like a wants and gots list. So I want to work with these, and then I could just tick them over to the GOTS list when I've got them, right?
Nice.
And then I just started out the sort of relatively cold outreach. And by that, I looked at their socials. I looked and saw who their most active agents were. I liked their stuff, started sharing the stuff, started engaging with their stuff, started talking to them in the DMs, and basically nurtured them to a point where, at that point, back in 2020, when podcasts were like, everyone was like coming out the back of COVID and it was still very much podcasting and like all that kind of jazz. I invited them onto a podcast with me. Now that was content for them, content for me. And then, I mean, I never really published the bloody stuff. Like I put it out on YouTube, but it was a point to get in the room, see if we got that sort of same ethos and structure. And the follow-up is that I love what you're doing. Can we have a coffee? Can we have a chat? Let's just see where we are with this. Throw a couple of deals my way. As soon as you used us, I'm sure it'll work out. One of those contracts took 18 months to get onboarded. But we just stayed at it when it ended up pitching against L&C and one other national and got the business. Wow. Purely on the basis that we are present, we're there, we're in the area, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that was kind of how we initially groomed it.
That's something that is a great way to get in touch with business owners. And it's a big... If anybody follows Gary Vee, he's a huge marketeer on social media. And he talked about in 2020, set up a podcast, not for the content is a byproduct,
It
but
is. Yeah.
what you want to do is invite business owners in the local area. It could be business owners, it could be the local headmaster, it could be the local butcher, baker, candlestick maker. You will never have an opportunity to sit with somebody and have a conversation for 45 minutes. You will never be able to pitch your business. Impossible. Okay.
Yep.
But you will be able to get them on a podcast and chat with them for half an hour. And that's exactly what I started this podcast out to be. It's a great business generation tool. So if you are a mortgage broker and you are looking for introducers, copy exactly what Jonathan did. Make a list of people on Instagram, engage with, or Facebook or LinkedIn, engage with their content and invite them onto a podcast. It's completely free to set up a podcast. Get one created and you can chat to all the people in the local area. I think that's absolute gold. And I just wanted to reiterate that point there, Jonathan.
And do you know what? It was content for me for later down the line as well. So like I'm asking these, half a dozen estate agents, what's your top tips for selling? Brilliant, excellent. That's now got like a snapshot of 6 to 12 people where I can say, when speaking to this estate agent, this is the advice they gave me. They're going to like that. They're going to share that. They're going to recirculate that to their network. And your exposure by a byproduct of that information is so important.
I love that.
So yeah, it's great.
And to take it one step further, actually, so you might not want to do the podcast, do an Instagram live.
Yeah.
Jump on with the estate agent, and what, as Jonathan's just said there, have those questions. Right, what are the top 5 tips for somebody selling in April? What's the top tips for somebody moving in September? And have those questions, because on those Instagram lives, if Jonathan was to jump on with Smith's estate agents, all of Smith's estate agents' followers will get a notification and see Jonathan's face. Yeah. So again, you're getting into their audience without, do you know what I mean, being salesy or anything. You are in their face. Yeah. So I love that. If you want to take it a step further, guys, go and do an Instagram live with a local estate agent.
Agreed. Yeah.
So that's why you landed your first introducer. Where do you then find the more obscure introducers, Jonathan?
So again, it's looking at, if I look at the kind of hobbies and stuff that I'm into, so let's just say like the three threads through my life have always been like golf, as we discussed before, Chris, then obviously motorsports. So love motorsports, and then extreme sports. So those 3 things have always been the things that have really interested me. It's things I can talk about in a direct and articulate way. I'm in their kind of ecosystem, so to speak. So I then sort of looked at, okay, well, who serves these industries? So like talking about like the extreme sports insurance company, I can walk into a room with those people, sit down, they're talking about when they went to, this place and did snowboarding here, or they've gone to this wave park. And I'm like, yeah, I've been there. It's great. I wish they'd done that with it. And they're talking, you can have that really good engaged conversation. It's nothing to do with actually business. Because people don't set up, on the whole, people don't set up businesses to talk about business. They set up to talk about the passions and interests they've got. So if you're a mortgage advisor, typically on the whole, you love helping people move home, right? Or you move from an estate agency background, you want something a bit more technical, however that might look and feel, right? You might be a finance person, but then you love talking about money. There's always, it's never really about the business element, the transaction. It's about the whole thing around it. And that's the same with any introducer. Understand them, find out their pain points, get excited with them. Get excited with them about what they're excited about. Like I had a meeting with that company sort of last week before, and we'd spent an hour in that room. I think we talked about the proposal 5 minutes. The rest of it was just talking about everything else around what they're looking to do, their experience, like what what different things they've done to kind of get into that place. And then the 5 minutes at the end was like, should we do this then? Like,
should we just do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And how does that conversation? So you're in a room with those people for an hour. So in your case, it was extreme sports. Somebody else might be into yoga, for example. Yep. So we go into that yoga room and we're chatting to everybody about yoga and things. At what point do you talk about that you're a mortgage advisor?
Oh, they know already. So they know already. I mean, like the proposition we've got for as a business now is wider than just mortgages. So we've got a lot more we can actually serve them with. Whether it's business protection or the other areas of like private medical or whatever, right? But the reason you're getting invited in that first instance is probably just to grab a coffee. Like let's grab a coffee and just chat how we can support your clients. So like I always go in with that mindset of, and it's one of the first questions I ask, it's like, how can I support you? What can I do to help your business? Like,
Rather than what can I get from you? What can I help you with?
100%. Because as a byproduct, if you help them as a byproduct, you're going to get helped. So like that's always. I think people want quick wins too quickly, right? You want to now introducer, get the leads, do the business, da 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 da. Great, excellent. The deeper the relationship, the longer the relationship. Does that make sense?
Love that. Yeah, that might be the podcast title. That one.
So if you've got like a really intrinsically deep relationship with that person on a level above or below or around business or whatever it might be, whatever commonality, if you've got that kind of relationship with that person, the business is a byproduct. You're just supporting their clients, supporting them to reach their goals. And I sometimes, like, depending on which introducer it is, especially with the self-employed estate agents, I'll sit down and be like, so you're on a trajectory with, let's just say, an EXP type setup. When you cap out, you get to here, then you get to there. Brilliant, excellent. So where do you want your income to be from financial services? Do you want it to be here, here, and here, or do you want to like flatline it? How do you want it to be? Then we can reverse engineer. To get to there, based on our conversion rate, you need to send me X leads. Because they're intrinsically targeted people, right?
Yeah.
So you're then, say, you're working on a much deeper level.
I like that. You're helping them achieve their goals, and I'm sure we're going to get into that conversation when we talk about maintaining the relationships as well. So before we get into the next section of the podcast, we're just going to announce that we are going live with our Social for Brokers Learning Lab, and it's a community where you're going to learn everything about social media, how to set up your social media channels, how to run your social media channel, how to do everything with video, Canva creation. It's going to be full of lots of stuff in there. So make sure you send us a message if you are interested in our paid community called the Learning Lab. So, Jonathan, we'd like to make a £10 donation before we move on to the next part as a thank you for coming on the podcast. Which charity did you want us to make the donation to?
I think Papyrus, is the one I'd like to send to. I mean, I do a lot of work actually with the mortgage industry mental health chart now. I'm on a steering group for those guys. Cool. And part of that obviously is, like dealing with like suicide issues, stuff like that outside of work. So yeah, that would be really cool. Brilliant. Thanks.
Make that donation for you. So as a mortgage broker, I've landed my first introducer. What can we do when we first speak to them?
I love this because this is where the evolution of what I did in the first instance versus what we do now is completely. Okay. I'm going to save a lot of time for a lot of people here.
Awesome.
The deep part of this is like you need to have a good to go pack. So we now send a launch pack through to every single one of our estate agency introducers, every single one of our agents. So within that launch pack, it will have a strut card which sits on each desk of their office with a QR code on it, which tags straight through to a call link, which then goes straight into an advisor's diary. It tags that particular company, so they always get paid on that agreement. They also get window cards as a guarantee. So already pre-printed, heavy card, good quality window cards. They can flip around either A4 and either portrait or landscape, A3, A4. They also get valuation pack things, so things for their valuation packs. So they can say your house has been valued at X, your mortgage is Y, and they can work out their own loan to value on it. Then they can call us to get advice on what the next move looks like. Nice. We then also have a A5 leaflet that goes into all of their send outs when they send out documents, wherever, and that's both digitally and physically. So they do get the option of a banner as well for the office saying we're powered by Sterling Southgate, and a QR code on that which they can zap and book an appointment. God. So the evolution of that from literally like, we've got our first introducer and what do you need from us? And then there being loads of back and forward about this, that and the other. I think the three areas that they need to be focusing on are visibility. First of all, visibility with the clients in the window, so they're always getting paid no matter what. So the QR code leading to a call link or leading to information, whatever it might be, is the first point. Visibility with their vendors, so when they're out there listing properties, they can have got an immediate in with, you now know how much your house is worth, find out what your mortgage options are, number two. And then the visibility with their buyers, so that is the pack, that is the document we give them on viewings or whatever that looks like. Say you viewed the house, it might be the house of your dreams, find out what your mortgage looks like now. So those three areas: so visibility in the window, visibility with the vendors, and visibility with the buyers.
Imagine that if you were an introducer and you just signed a deal with Sterling. I tell you what, actually, let's flip it around. Imagine you're a mortgage broker and you sign a deal with an accountant, and the accountant says, right, can you send me any leads of people that need accountancy services? But as well as that, you then, a week later, get a package in the post which has a flyer, which is probably like, could be dual branded, that you could give to your client. There's a business card in there. There's some window cards for the office. There's PDFs, and you get all that, and you're like, that saved me so much time. Like if I'm sat there as a mortgage broker and somebody says, have you got an accountant you recommend? Yep, here's a flyer. I'll send you an email with everything on. Straight away, as a mortgage broker, I'm sat there thinking, this is bloody easy. I'm going to send all my business to Smith's accountants. It's exactly what Jonathan's doing for the estate agents. They've got a pack ready to go.
Yeah. And it's removing the friction. There's quite a lot of friction in this process, especially with estate agents, because they come from a corporate background and they know they're drilled on exactly how they need to ask that question every single person until they get off the phone.
Yeah.
Or they are on the opposite end of that and they're like, well, that's sleazy corporate. We ain't interested in that. We want to do. We want to just concentrate on the client and helping them get from A to B as quickly as possible with their sale. We remove the friction by putting as many tools and things in their hands. And I'd go so far as saying, like, have a book of content that we've now listed. We've got for every single one of our introducers, and that is like top tips for preparing for your mortgage appointment. All these kind of like separate things that we then feed directly through to the estate agent. Put a call link so they can put it on their socials. I do go a little bit further than that with sort of rate updates and stuff that we can't actually say through our socials because of compliance. Guess what? Our estate agency contacts can say it because they're not bound by the same FCA rules. So we can say nationwide are just about to reduce their rates by X, Y, and Z. Brilliant. Send that to our estate agency introducers. They put it out there on their socials. Guess what? They get their flipping phone bangs up with like, we need to talk about our mortgage. We need to talk about this product. Fine, get them straight through to us. So use your introducers as a bit more of a mouthpiece for the stuff you can't say. I would say would be.
I like that.
Really,
and that's it, isn't it? It's been able to. It's you having the preparation to set all that stuff up, because you don't want the estate agent to be chasing you, going, oh, Jonathan, have you got a flyer? Oh, Jonathan, somebody's asking about, can we do some social posts together? Jonathan, have you got this? You give it them all up front, so automatically, like you say, you reduce the friction, and you don't have any. What's the word I'm looking for? Almost like. Not angered, frustrated conversations between the two of you, and that can tarnish the relationship from the beginning because you're providing it with. I love the idea of that marketing pack. I think that's fantastic.
It's the second setup to that marketing pack. It's one thing having the stuff, is knowing how to talk to people about it. Okay. So we do an onboarding session with every single estate agent, and then we have we have a drip feed of X amount of calls over a set amount of time. So it might be a weekly call with the team to talk about their frustrations with this stuff, what their past experiences might have been. They might have had a mortgage advisor that was in there and they were absolutely crap and they kept on getting more feedback, right? So it's almost going in here as well and working through their kinks of why they're stopping us. I did a great thing with a company down in Devon, and this is where the experience comes from, really. They'd previously had a mortgage introducer and they just weren't getting anywhere with it. And there's this guy called Craig, who worked in one of their offices. And he was like, do you know what? He's not sent it for a single mortgage lead in like months. Okay. So I went down and sat down with him, spent half an hour, 40 minutes with him, and said, Craig, this is a conversation. All you're trying to do is get the best outcome for your client. But by doing that, you need to understand their full financial situation. But you don't have to ask those questions. You can just say, look, it's part of the process. This is what's going to happen. And just make sure that you're kind of gearing the conversation correctly and looping back into this thing. He went from lowest performer to over 30 leads in 1 month.
God.
Like literally within a few weeks of that call, I was getting 3 or 4 leads a day from us at points. I was like, this is amazing.
And those leads would be very different if, let's say, what happened was actually you phoned the manager of that branch and said, where's my bloody leads? Why are you not sending any through? So then that manager then gets onto that guy and goes, will you send more leads through to Sterling Southgate? We're going to lose this. And then you might have got 50 awful leads because he just feels he has to do it.
You can't mandate from the top down. You can't. Mm-hmm. Like that's that corporate attitude, and then then you're going to get a load of crap. So work on the pain points with the individuals, and it might feel like a bit of a faff, but once you've done that, it unlocks A, their income potential, but B, the quality of leads that come through to you.
That's one thing I wanted to speak to you about. You spoke about it earlier on. When you will actually sit down with an introducer, and instead of just saying, send us leads, we can do their mortgages for you, it will make your life so much easier because we'll be managing it all in-house. Everybody gets that. But what you do differently is you sit down and say, what are the pain points of your client? So what are the pain points of the extreme sport business owner? Yeah. How does that conversation look when you're sat down with somebody?
Yeah. Like, it loops back to what I was saying about taking interest in what they're interested about. Like, okay. Once they've got this idea in their head about the business they're going to set up, they might have fallen into it, might be driven into it, whatever it looks like, might be mission guided, whatever. They then have a business on their hands that they need to kind of make sure there's certain standards, certain quality of standards that they're delivering. You always want to angle from, I'm an extension of this team. Whether it's an estate agency that's dealing with mid-market, higher market, whatever the market might be, whether it's an insurance company or an accountancy, you want to say, like, you want to take that same degree of pride in, like, if I was selling something to them, how would I want them to deal with it? Well, I can't, they won't know unless I tell them, right? Mm-hmm. And to the point of, with certain clients and certain quality of clients, so sometimes we deal with sort of upper echelons of sort of, a couple of £1 million loans and around that kind of space. With those kind of people, like foreign countries and people like that. So I'll turn around and say, always before you do anything, contact me to discuss how we're going to make an approach on this.
Okay, that's really interesting.
Just because
it's a joint approach.
They know the client, they know what they're trying to achieve, they know the property. But if you're just getting like an email come through saying, please contact this client about this property, it means nothing. Mm-hmm. If you say it's a £2.1 million property, they've gone around to have a look at it, they want to turn the barns into an office block for their business. What's their business? Oh, they're in textiles. Oh, great, excellent. So want to turn the house into this, want to do that with that. Like, the more context you've got to a situation, the easier it is to then go, oh, I understand you want to do this, this, and this. Tell me a bit more about that. I'd love to hear about your business.
I can almost hear the mortgage brokers shouting at the radio or the podcast or the phone or whatever it is, saying, yeah, but my estate agents don't give me enough information. But what Jonathan's saying here is, it's how you set it up with them in the first place. It's how you got into the estate agent, sat down with them and said, look, just let me know as much as you can about the clients because I will do everything I can to convert them for you.
Set the boundaries. I want to know the bloody dog's name. Like, so if I hear the dog in the background, it's like Tiggy bouncing around the background. Yeah, bloody hell, it was a nightmare. Fantastic. Yeah. Instantly, like, you're eased into that conversation. You're now not talking about money, business, buying houses. You're talking about the real why behind them.
How do you get estate agents to give you more information, or accountants? Because they're all busy. And all they want to do is just, right, Jonathan, can you give Mike Smith a call? This is his number. He wants a mortgage. How do you get them to give you more soft facts?
The truth is, like, we haven't got that nailed down. So some of our introducers are really bought into that process. I think this is the way, as mortgage advisors, especially when dealing with introducers, we kind of have this mindset sometimes. A, we don't want to say anything too much that's going to jeopardize the relationship because it's an income stream. But B, we want to form ourselves around them. But like, every one of our introducers is mandated on the fact that this is how we work. So much down to a letter of, like, if it's not via a call link, we won't be calling it. Like, we don't just get emails sent through to us. It's all directly through call links.
Okay.
Because we want to know a qualified buyer is someone who knows it's in their diary. They've had a confirmation email to reply that this is when it's going to happen. And it works better when you've got a bigger team because there's more diary availability. So going back to when I was on my own, I would make the calls. I would kind of, be that outbound lead comes in by WhatsApp, email, text, whatever it is. I just hit the call button. But I was finding that when I was hitting that call button and calling them, I was spending so much time stepping back from, I'm an advisor working alongside X, but I'm trying to build rapport really quickly. So you could even go so far as saying on any one of those, however you're going to do it, there's a text box on there and it's like labeled rapport points. So it might be got a dog, got 3 kids, got X, Y, and Z, because they've been on the viewing and they understand like what they're looking to do typically. Looking to move home for school catchments, this is school, blah, 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 whatever it is, right? So those rapport points are almost more important than what their budget is and like how much mortgage they're taking. Because we can work through all that stuff. That's the nuts and bolts of the background stuff, right? Once we've got payslips, bank statements, we understand all their financials.
Yeah.
But the gut feel of actually why they're looking to do something, if you can tap into that part from any client, any introducer, why they're looking to do what they're doing, there's different quality of conversation then.
That's interesting what you've said there. Clients, yeah, I think every mortgage broker knows soft facts are going to help you win the business. But actually, what are the soft facts about the introducer? I think if you can get the soft facts of the introducer as a person to build that relationship, that can filter down into the staff, which then can increase the quality of leads to come over.
You're absolutely right. I mean, it's little things like I know different introducers into different things. So one of our introducers, like, he's big on going out for dinner, not a lunch guy. Right? Loves going out for dinner in the evening, sort of long-term partner, but lives his life quite sort of vicariously through going out to lunches and going out to events and stuff like that, right? So I'd always angle let's just go out for dinner. That's a conversation rather than say, do you want to grab breakfast, do you want to grab lunch, do you want to grab coffee? It's like, let's just go out for dinner, because I knew that about him already from speaking to other people, that he's always out at dinner. Great, brilliant.
Yeah, that's the way in, isn't it? It's knowing those soft facts about the introducer. Don't always think about the leads that are going to be sent to you. Warm up the introducer himself.
Yeah. I agree.
Love it.
Yeah.
So before we wrap it up, Jonathan, are there any other key points that you think people should think of when looking at introducers?
Yeah, it's something that we've always, up until very recently, I'd say even in the last sort of probably only 6 months, we've really nailed this down. Get the feedback loop right, and get the feedback loop right with the agent. Understand what kind of level of feedback they're going to want on a client introducer. Some are like, they'll send it through to you. They know you're going to deal with it. That's the end of that conversation, right? Then they want to get paid when they want to get paid. Now, especially with slightly larger groups, they're more management information heavy. So they want to know, of those 100 leads, how many went to business, how many have been paid on, et cetera, right? So get the feedback loop right with the agent. We lost a pretty decent contract off the back of a poor feedback loop. And that was the fact that we'd grown to a size, but we still didn't have our own shit in order, really. But like, we hadn't got that feedback loop right. So actually, we ended up in a situation where leads were getting sent to us. We were actioning the leads, but then the teams were going back to their managers saying, "I've sent 5 leads that way this week. I haven't got any feedback at all." So make sure that feedback loop is tight. So those introducers know exactly where you are with those leads. They don't need to know the detail of what's happening with the client, but knowing that they're exactly where they are. Now, that can be done via tech, or it can be done manually by email back, spoken to the client, booked in a call for Wednesday. Wednesday call comes in, spoken to the client, they're sending documents through. Documents come in, documents are in, ready to rock and roll, giving them the advice.
Yeah.
That is just dropping little crumbs for them to say, it's in progress, it's in progress, it's in progress, in progress, it's actioned. So yeah, get the feedback loop right would be my only sort of closing statement on that.
Love it. What a way to finish the podcast. We've talked about how to get introducers, how to keep them, and how to maintain those relationships. Jonathan, thank you so much for your insight and the blueprint into getting introducers. This is a big thing at the moment, and I think there's so many more leads out there. Yep. Don't worry about, I'm going to talk about social media here. Don't necessarily rely on social media. I think the content that you're putting out on social media is great for introducers to see. Yep. That's a great point. But don't rely on social for the leads. Don't rely on websites for the leads. Go and get some new introducers, because there's going to be a steady stream of leads, exactly what Jonathan does.
Yep.
Thank you so much for coming on, Jonathan. Where's the best place for people to reach out to you if they do want to ask any questions? So
for mortgage advisors, I would say definitely jump onto LinkedIn or Instagram. So that's at sterlingsouthgate.jonathan on Instagram. and on LinkedIn, just Jonathan Southgate. But yeah, be great to catch up with any of you.
Fantastic. Jonathan, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
Cheers.